Hi, I'm Mike, the bearded bimbler, and this is my adventures. So come with me as we run, walk, crawl and cycle across the many and varied landscapes of the UK.
So, good morning everybody. We are now in Church Stretton to take on our very first walk of the year and the first walk in the series of Walking with Legends. And I'll tell you a bit more about the person we're going to be sort of walking kind of in the footsteps with a little bit on the way. Get through Church Stretton, got to find a cash machine. And then we are going to head up Cardiff Mill Valley and onto the Long Mynd. So I will catch you then. There we have it, folks. We are now in what was coined in the Victorian times as Little Switzerland. This is by far the highest point on our entire climb, so to get it out and done within one day is absolutely brilliant. This whole area, geologically speaking, is probably about 900 million years old, which is crazy. So as you can see, I have added on my waterproof as we get a little bit higher. The drizzle gets a little bit thicker. So who are we following on this adventure this weekend? Well, we're following a chap by the name of Eadric the Wild, and we are going right back to 1066, which some of you may remember. I think there was another popular history moment happening at that time, and we join Eadric the Wild, or Eadric Child, or Eadric Sylvacticus even, and despite his kind of notoriety within the Welsh Shropshire hills, very little is actually known about him. So we know roughly who his father was, or believe who his father was, and his cousin was one of the Lords of Mercia. So he kind of ruled over or looked after Mercia at the time, on the behest of the good King Harold. And Eadric was what was called a thane. So I think there may have been like a local mayor as a comparison. And Eadric was one of the most wealthiest landowners within kind of Shropshire, and he owned land Shropshire, he owned land in Ludlow, and he owned land in Hereford, or Herefordshire, and his father had manors in much Wenlock as well. So yeah, quite a wealthy, well-to-do chap. And like I said, other than that, we don't really know where he was born. Some suggestions that he was born in Condover, which isn't very far from here. Some suggestions say that he lived in Clun, which is where we're heading to for tomorrow. So yeah, a little bit of a teaser for you at the moment. Just think about 1066 in your head, and I will fill you in a bit more as we go. We've got 3 days of me yabbering on, so I've got to fill the time somehow. Meanwhile, you can enjoy the gorgeous scenery and the Long Mynd. with more or less topped Cardigan Mill now. As you can see, there is absolutely nothing to say. We are wandering over to Ratlinghope, a little hamlet down in a valley down there, and I could tell you a little bit more about Eadric. So you imagine that it's 1066 and you've gone all the way up to Yorkshire with your king Harold. You fought the Vikings at the Battle of Stamford Bridge, and that's probably one of the most pivotal points in where the Viking power basically loses its grasp on England. And at that time point, there are 300 years of the Vikings basically doing whatever they wanted in England and raiding and fighting, and you know, let's not forget they had quite a strong culture as well. Arts, craft, music, storytelling, all of these things. So you defeat them, you spend your time up there, you celebrate, you eat, you drink, you're feeling great. And then you hear that the Normans have arrived on the Kent coast, and the Normans have arrived in their all new armour, and new weaponry, new fighting skills and horses, and you have to about turn, travel all the way back down again from kind of York all the way down south to fight the Battle of Hastings, and your king is slain in battle and the Normans win at that point. And William becomes the new King of England. And so, having been at that battle, as much as the March Lords would and the Thanes, they would have had to have swore loyalty to the new king. And as punishment for kind of taking part in the battle against the Normans, William decides to disperse his new land amongst his most trusted nobles, and all of these Thanes have suddenly lost all of that power, all of that respect, and they're pretty much ridiculed by the Normans at this point. They're harassed, they're harried, they're bullied, they're attacked almost on a constant period of time. They're attacked by the Normans, and Eadric was one of them people, and he must have sat there brooding in his little manor in his village, kind of brooding over what was once his and where he now places himself within in the new world order. And he doesn't like it. He doesn't like that one bit. So what do you think he did next? Well, I'm going to have a little wander. I'm going to tell you a bit more. So, going back to Eadric. So after swearing fealty and loyalty to the new King William disperses all of these captured lands amongst his Norman friends, and one of them places is Hereford Castle. Now he gives that castle to one of his mates and says, protect this area is yours. And he's like, yeah, alright then, no worries mate. He basically sets about and makes it his business to harass and bully Eadric for ages after this. And by 1067 Eadric has had enough. He's had enough of being bullied, he's had enough of the loss of his lands, he's had enough of his people being harassed, taxed, pillaged, kidnapped and murdered by the new overlords, and he decides that something needs to be done about it. So he sets off into the Welsh Hills, which is kind of more or less here. This would have been a borderland in its day, and although there was always skirmishes between the Welsh and the Anglo-Saxons, they lived side by side fairly okay. You know, there wasn't any large-scale conflicts ongoing all the time. So Eadric approaches Prince of Gwynedd and his brother, and he asks them for help. And he's like, we need to do something about these buggers. They're just harassing me, man. And I've had enough of them. And they're like, you know what, we're always up for a fight. Let's team up. Let's kick some butt. So that's exactly what they did. So I was going to go up onto the Stiper Stones, which is up there. I'll just show you some of the rock formations, but I've got here and the weather's just absolutely awful. It started being heavier now in rain, and I really don't want the miles to just have to go up there basically and come back down. So I'm not here to suffer these walks anymore. I'm here to enjoy them, and I'm just not going to find it enjoyable to walk up there basically. So we're crossing the road here, leaving the Stiper Stones behind, and we're going to head towards Nipstone Rock, and I'm hoping that the woodland here is going to kind of offer me a bit of shelter so I can have a sit down and a drink and something to eat, because I'm starving and I need to make sure I keep up my fluid levels these days. I have to take care of the old rotten corpse as he was. And so we just stopped for a little rest and managed to find this little natural shelter where it's less wet than the rest of the place. So we were on about Eadric, weren't we? So Eadric, along with his new Welsh pals, set off with their armies and headed towards Hereford Castle, where he basically wanted to give the guy a taste of his own medicine, and they managed to take everything up to the bridge, from what I understand, but they besieged the castle, but they never actually took the castle. And you've got to think in them days that kind of bar the Romans and then up to the Normans, Saxons, Vikings never really had an idea or a concept of besieging places or castles, like proper castles, stone-built castles. And so they weren't successful. It's as simple as that. And they left, and they headed back into the Welsh hills. So, back onto Eadric. So after Shrewsbury, they kind of fade into the historical mist, does Eadric and his Welsh friends, and there isn't really much about what happens. You know, they attack these castles, they don't succeed, they retreat, they hide away, and it isn't until about 1069 that they kind of rear up again. And at this point, the Northumbrians have had enough and they're kicking off. So William has gone up there, he's come back to England, gone up there, and he's carried out something called Harrying of the North. Now, you will need to look that up. To say it was brutal would be an understatement of what he did to the north, and he left it basically as a bit of a desolate wasteland after he finished. And so the Normans took on Northumbrians. The Northumbrians invited the Danes over. They thought, come and have a party, have a fight, and they're like, yeah, all right. Danes came over. William, being quite shrewd and knowing that he had no way of fighting the Danes as well, paid the Danes to go away. So the Danes took their ransom, off they went, and it was left to the Mercians, the Welsh, and the Northumbrians. And unfortunately, William won at that point, and he basically cemented his hold upon England from that point onwards. And there isn't much about the battle. There was a Battle of Stafford in 1069, which is where all of this took place. But there isn't actually a great deal of information about who was there. We know the Welsh princes were there, but we don't know the size of their armies, we don't know where the battle took place. I can't really find any archaeological information or accounts of that battle anywhere. So yeah, and it's not quite clear whether Eadric was there. But then Eadric kind of pops up again about 10 years, about sort of 5-6 years later maybe, at the head of William's army, heading into Scotland to kind of take on King Malcolm. which seems rather strange. I think it's worth noting here that Eadric was actually quite a popular name, as bizarre as it sounds. E-double-A is how it's kind of spelt, so it was quite a popular name for a boy. So we don't really know, and kind of at that point, Eadric again kind of fades into the mists of time, and he's not really heard of. And when the Doomsday sort of book was finally completed, there isn't an Eadric that's cited as holding any lands. So did he die? Was he captured? Did he run away in a dungeon? Or was his ultimate punishment for going against William to be kind of written out of history, you know? And that was his kind of, and we've got to remember, is the history is written by the victors. So a lot kind of like the Roman storytelling or tales of their battles and what they did, you got to take them with a pinch of salt. They're very much written maybe for the side of the winners, and paint the losers in a very bad light. So Eadric was very, very important. He was the first person to really stand up against the Norman invasion and take them on at their own game. Unfortunately lost, but it meant that the Normans didn't actually cement their hold on England for probably about 10 years after they actually come to the island, and all of these little battles that were fought, they kind of helped to delay what the inevitable was. So yeah, this is kind of Wild Eadric's way. And like I say, you remember, all of these forests were kind of natural forests. All of this, none of this was pasture, none of this was farmland, none of this was heathland. It was all thick forests where Eadric hunted and potentially hid out. And unfortunately, like a lot of these characters will go through, the history books kind of write out their history and they become embroiled in a bit of romanticism. I'm finally into a bit of kind of really old forest here. And I wonder what they've seen. I always wondered that when I walk past trees, and I always wonder what the trees have seen, because these are like our living storytellers, if you will, that they've kind of collected, or they've seen all of this history around them and everything change over time, but they just stand there immobile. 1947. How long was 1947 scrolled into it? Amazing. Beautiful old trees. I'm actually glad I come down this way. This is better than the kind of the higher route, actually. Still wet. As you can see, I've put it up very quickly because it's absolutely hiking it down now, and everything is just kind of, I would never have been able to do this in the Farina at all. The floor's a little bit wet, my mat's a little bit wet because it's a pitch and a first, but so far it seems to be doing alright, and that's what I wanted to do. And you can see the rain just beading off everything. So I'm just literally sat in the tent, lying down. There isn't much else I can do. There isn't really anywhere I can go. I went into Bishop's Castle, which is literally about a 10-minute walk. I had some lunch. Oh, it was so needed. Cup of tea, can of Coke, of course. And then I made my way back up here, back to the campsite. I hoped it would have kind of eased off a bit. It's not. I think it's got heavier, and I think it's due to stop around 7 tonight. That's what the weather is saying at the moment. Yeah, could be better today. Could be better. Then it could be worse. I'm not really sure how. So that is my day. I've done about 15 miles today, nice and easy. I'd cut out some of the sections. I just wasn't interested in going on to the tops in this. Just a no-go. I mean, literally everything is soaking. My gloves are, my waterproofs are soaked through, my trainers, my socks. You know, I don't even think the rain cover from my bag survived. I think it's actually been letting water in the top as well. Everything's covered in mud of some degree. It's just awful. So I booked a room at a pub tomorrow night to try and air out some of this kit. I'm going to have to, if this stops at 7 tonight, it's supposed to remain dry then for the rest of the weekend, and I'm going to have to try and bash off some of this rain and try and straighten it out a bit. As you can see there, it's not quite straight, and I haven't quite put that bit in. As I said, I needed to just get it on, get the inside dry. So once it stops raining outside, I will sort the tent out a bit better, guy it out a bit better, whatever, scrape it up a bit better. But yeah, it's lovely. I'm really warm. I've got these thermals that I bought off of Amazon, and they're really, really warm. I'm under my quilt. I've also got my silk liner lying on because the mat's a little bit wet as well. But I've also got 2 tops that I can put on, and I've got like one of them neck scarf things as well to put on. So I've got quite a few things, a few layers I can put on anyway. I can't see it getting massively cold anyway, and if it does, I should be alright. I've got wool socks on as well this time round, and went out and bought some proper wool socks. So yeah, see how we go. I'm going to go in the pub tomorrow night. I'm going to have a couple of pints maybe. And maybe even have a bite to eat. I'm going to wait until it stops raining, and then I can maybe try and cook some food as well. And I might have a wander around, try and bung some of the stuff in the wet room. There's a wet room down there, so I might try and bung some of the stuff in there to at least try and get it a bit drier for tomorrow. Maybe we'll see. So yeah, sign off for now, unless anything exciting happens, and I'll catch you all tomorrow in the morning, bright and early please, bright and early.